Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, Sean, RJ, I'm doing fine. And, boy, here we go to the Capitol. As Nate Newton once said, let's give them some capital punishment.
Yes, he did.
That's better than Nate's other all-time line when he
Oh,
retired.
yeah,
didn't
Nate,
you
when
say?
he retired, said he wanted to get nasty fat.
Nasty, not fat, nasty fat
fat.
after
Yep.
retirement. Hey, Jerry, did you watch that game last night? And did you love it? Did you enjoy the Patriots throwing 3 times in order to win that game in those conditions?
Well, again, it's just the nature of the greatness of our game. And when we talk about it and we see a quality in a player, there are several qualities in a player that make a football player, or one or two that we don't emphasize, and it's the game. And so the game, it has to be called on sometime to use all of the qualities. And there you go up there and throw the ball 3 times because you want to win the game. And again, it undermines a little bit the way we focus on statistics, the way we focus on stats, the way we focus on length of players, size of players. We do all those things. It just reminds us again, this thing's just about coming there and getting the score and winning the thing by a point, whatever, win the game.
Jerry, that phrase, styles make fights, do you think that pertains to the NFL more than just about any other sport?
Give me that question again. I'm sorry. I broke up on it.
That's okay. The phrase, they say styles make fights in boxing. Do you think that pertains to the NFL more than just about any sport there is?
Yeah, because you got so many numbers of players out there. You've got 22 players on the field, and you've got guys. Let's look at the offensive line. We've got players that have offensive linemen that are quick, that are strong, but then we have maulers, like mauling them, just grind them, just get in front of them, just somehow get enough of them to block their guy. We've got ugly-looking blocks, and then we sometimes have crisp blocks, Larry Allen pulling, cutting up field, and wiping 2 out. There's a lot of different ways to block somebody. I had an offensive line coach one time say, my whole philosophy in the offensive line is called get man. Don't care how you get him, get man, which means get in front, block your man.
Yeah.
And you got him blocked if all you do is make him stutter step for a second. You got him blocked.
Jerry,
again, going to the point, there are just so many different ways to look at the nuances of football.
Yeah. Before we get into some of the Cowboys issues, I was just curious, with a Sunday off, like Jerry Jones, NFL Sunday off, how are you taking in the games if you were watching them? How are you dressing down? Are you a shorts guy? You got sweatpants? Is it popcorn? Is it pizza? Is it nachos? Give us Jerry Jones inside his NFL Sunday setup.
Well, I've watched him in everything that you have, or without everything that you have.
Well,
on as far as dress is concerned. But I just, if I'm on the move, I'm constantly looking at it, trying to find a screen someplace. Obviously, like all Cowboy fans, I'm interested in the teams that we've got to play. In our particular case, the way it's structured right now, those are our division guys for the most part. Just zeroed in on every play there is almost as though we were playing them.
Yeah.
And looking at that real good, I just soak it all up. There's probably not any point on our presentation of our games on a weekend that when I have a free weekend that I don't use. I use everything, red zone, everything to get to just glimpse the game. I'm constantly reminding myself of the nuance of what would happen if they win relative to playoff standing, or certainly relative to even though we have really one legitimate spot to be in your quest to go to the Super Bowl, and that is you need to be the top seed. That's, to me, about the only one that makes a big difference.
All right, Jerry, you've had some time off. Just curious, what you all been wanting to fine tune? What have you been focusing on? We've been talking about the offensive line, some of the penalties, the secondary. What's been kind of the focus that you can tell us of the fine tuning of your football team as you've had some days to assess?
Yeah. I've spent quite a bit of time going over. As you know, we're privy to some good perspectives on our staff. McAdoo is a consultant that used to head coach at New York. But a lot of different views as to where we ought to be focusing, if there's any change, points of emphasis. But looking at that, you could say, well, Jerry, do you order up reports from different views? Do you go outside the organization? Okay. But you really know that whoever you ask, they're going to have something you need to be doing differently. Or they're going to have maybe a criticism of and a real definitive answer. The real world is, across the board, we have adjustments, but not dramatic adjustments to make. It's we're just, you could call it being on a sight of a rifle. You're just a fraction of being where you want to be.
Yeah.
That can be combinations of personnel, or that can be what we're asking them to do. But most of the time, this is fine tuning. Dramatic would be way off base changes on either side of the ball, or frankly on anything you're trying to do to improve. Now, let me mention this: as far back as last spring in training camp, we were preparing some things doing differently as we go into the latter part of the season and the playoff. Because if you don't have your nice repertoire of things that you haven't done during the season to show your opponents as you get to the end of the year or you get in the playoffs, you've come up short too. So there are some things that we would have done differently no matter what, relative to the plays or relative to even how we use some personnel.
Jerry Jones joined us here on 105.3 The Fan. It seems like over the last couple of weeks, something's just been a little bit off with Dak. He's not nearly the same player, it doesn't seem, that he was before the bye week. Is he 100% healthy?
Yes. The thing that you're seeing is sometimes the pass that looks errant is because the receiver, for instance, ran the route 2 yards, cut it off 2 yards shorter. He should be out 2 more yards before he makes his cuts. Can make all the difference in the world as far as his ability to separate. It has a relativeness to the other receivers. And so if you're not really crisp on the way the play was designed relative to how many yards you go, the cut, then your passing game can look really off. And that's one of the answers, better routes.
Jerry, what's the plan for Coach McCarthy getting back in the building around the guys, and what has it been like for Mike being away with what he's been dealing with?
Well, we all have become dangerous experts on the COVID thing in terms of, and we all are realizing that we don't know. We have a normal, unless you are testing negative, then you have a 10-day period of time that you stay quarantined, unless you have beaten the norm and have tested, let's say at 6 days, you start getting you 3 tests that are negative. That hadn't happened for him, so it looks like he'll go the full 10 days of quarantine.
Jerry Jones, every Tuesday with Sean and RJ, brought to you by Ford here on 105.3 The Fan. Let's talk about how excited you are to get Randy Gregory, Gallimore, Tank to go along with Micah as your pass rushers. You've been talking about this for a few weeks now, that help is on the way. Where do we stand for the Washington game with your guys up front, Jerry?
I'm going to freeze it in time as far as this season is concerned, when all three of them are out there at the same time. And all three of them have a play where they've, quote, got their hands down, but all three of them are in a pressure call or a pressure situation on defense. That's going to be one that I want a picture of, and I want to freeze it for a long time. Have all three of them pressure.
Would Micah be coming through the A-gap on that, in that dream that you have, that freeze frame picture, or would he be on the outside?
I may have switched him with Diggs. He may be back there covering the out route. He can go anywhere. He can go anywhere. As the old boy says, he can go anywhere he want to go.
That means.
And so the point is that I'd like to see, my example was pressure. So he'd be in a pressure situation. He has answered one question that I was curious about when we drafted him, and that is, could he do some pressure in the middle and play there in the middle in pro football? We saw him do it when he was in college. Well, he can, and he uses that good and unique to get us pressure in the middle as well. So moving him around is the ticket. We've especially when you're sitting here picturing Gregory and you're picturing the Lawrence out there. Now, the good news is that Lawrence, Gregory, they can be down and inside. And so those give you a lot of options relative to Micah being outside and down.
Jerry, we're trying to understand what was going on with the running back usage here as of late. We know how much you love Tony Pollard. He's been amazing these past 2 weeks as a game breaker. And with Zeke laboring a little bit, I've been saying, why not more Pollard touches? It seems like Zeke is being force-fed a little bit. Just run Pollard more to the outside because he can break them like that. What do you say to that in terms of Zeke and Tony Pollard in the run game?
Well, without seriously buying into that you have as limited as Zeke as you might be implying, we've had going into games relative to this time last year or even relative to the start of the season, we've had or planned on having Pollard touch the ball anywhere from 5 to 10 more times a game. Mm. So that is the plan, and that is generally what you're trying to do, and you just see how the game goes. But we've frankly ever since training camp been wanting to, relative to what we've done in the past, get the ball to Pollard more.
Does money
That's
ever?
Not necessarily because of Zeke. That's not necessarily because of Zeke. We just want him to have the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That kick return that we made back against
Raiders.
I've forgotten what 2 games ago. The kick return that he made there will get you all the attention that you need as far as you'd like for him touching that ball and you kicking it.
Jerry, does money or contract ever kind of dictate who's getting, a start or the preferred touches in a situation like this?
No, not at this juncture. You want every play to have your best out there.
Jerry, where do things stand for you guys at right tackle heading into this game?
Oh, I think it's the best we've been all year. You've got an improved Collins. You've got a Steele that we know and are very confident that he can play at the right tackle, just play well there. And so in doing so, we will use the fact that we've got Collins at his best this year. We've got Steele. We'll use that as a as one of the or a way to help our running game, we will do that. And what that lets us do relative to any other formations that we want to use a big guy in that normally you'd have a tight end there, that'll help us out.
Can you tell us who the starter currently is over there?
I don't look at that. Both of them will play a lot, and I don't have. You don't have to look at that. And Collins and Steele both are the same player, whether they're the first one out there or not.
Jerry Jones here on 105.3 The Fan. I think we've been spoiled around here with this offensive line for a long time, and you've invested a lot. That's been one of our concerns. We know you've been dealing with injuries and guys in and out, suspensions. Have you been a little bit underwhelmed or a little bit disappointed, Jerry, with the offensive line play overall? You being an offensive line guy, given all the assets and what we're used to around here in terms of pass blocking and run blocking.
Yeah, well, defenses have understood for quite a while now this year that get in there and do everything you can to mitigate our run game, and plus we've played some top defensive lines, and so you got to take into account the strategies and who you're playing across from, and so. Frankly, we've had a lot of practice here against some good defensive lines. And that'll pay off for us in the next 5 ball games in the playoffs. We've this exercise of adjusting, working on combinations, emphasizing the negatives. You know, if you live to tell about it, there's no question getting knocked down or having to recover. If you can come on out and live to tell about it, it's a plus, not a minus. And so we've had a lot of reps. All of them haven't gone the way we want them to go. And literally in the offensive line, if you grade it, you easily can have 3 or 4 of your 5 offensive linemen do outstanding. One have a less snap than he normally does. And the results are the same. You're stopped. And so what you want is a consistency, and you want to really work to stop having individual breakdowns. It's the same effect, really, on a missed assignment or a getting beat with one of your offensive line. It's the same effect as a penalty. And you get that one miss, that stops you short, gets you starting from 0 again. It's almost the same thing as getting a penalty.
Jerry, fantastic as always. Thank you. We still didn't get your food on the football couch. Give us the favorite snack or what you're eating when you do get to watch at home and have a Sunday off. What is it?
Oh, popcorn.
Popcorn. Okay.
Right. Butter, heavy
popcorn.
butter.
Get your popcorn ready.
We'll have it 9 a.m. pregame with kickoff at noon here on The Fan. Thank you, Jerry. Have a good trip.
Sounds good, guys. All right. Bye-bye.